Hi, ladies. All right, so you're in for a treat. But I do have something to correct really fast. Remember earlier when Christine said a few 100,000 views or likes? No, it's 17 million plus. Okay? So today we have, I know, give it up. So she should have the blue dot by now, that official one. She should. We should rally behind her. But ladies, this is one of the things about Fellowship of Professional Women. We bring godly women to you, women that have stories to inspire, to lift you up, to give you hope. And today we have everyone's favorite TikTok auntie. That's what she's known for. Absolutely. So I want to really encourage everyone to take a look at the content that she puts out there. It's relatable, it's funny. You are either the person going through those emotions or you know someone that is. But she's a creative content producer, a comedian, and your good girlfriend, okay? Now, ShantaQ has risen to fame as everyone's favorite TikTok auntie through her viral skits and videos in which she just is being her authentic self, bringing all her experience there. And so she's had impressions, 52 million plus, in different media outlets like Yahoo, New York Times, and Forbes. Her content has gained her a celebrity following, like with people like Tiffany Haddish, Jenny McCarthy, and so much more. She helps others embrace and celebrate their roles in life. And that's one of the things about us, right, ladies? We wear so many different hats. Sometimes we gotta pick and choose which hat we're wearing. But ShantaQ does an amazing story showing her true, authentic self. So, whether it's a topic like life, business, parenting, recipes, even health and wellness, marriage, ShantaQ has that covered. So, please give it up for ShantaQ as she shares her story.
Good afternoon. How are you all? You guys look so beautiful and so pretty. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm just thankful that I was invited. So, like she said, I said as as a opener that I do a little joke. I know she said 17 million. It's actually 30 million. So it's actually 30 million views and impressions that I have made across the country and the world. So God has actually given me a huge platform and a large duty to take on. Because God's work is definitely not easy. And what I find, and I hope you ladies love to laugh, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to laugh, we're going to fellowship, and I'm going to do my story. Because a long time ago, I was speaking for American Heart Association, and I would always end up crying. I would always end up sad in the car because I was always reliving it over and over and over. And what I found is that your gifts show up when you're a child. Your gifts always show up as a child, but it takes those around you to nurture it and bring it out. And I didn't always have those people around. Like, I had parents, my mom, I lived with my dad, I had uncles, I had aunts, but they always seen comedy and laughing and being silly as foolish. They say the Bible don't like the fool. That's what I would always hear. And so I would kind of shy out in what I was doing. And when I started actually going through things, that's when I would find myself laughing and telling jokes and making the others around me happy. And so it was my good girlfriend here, Shantae, one day, who told me, you need to get out and you need to talk about these things that you tell us. It's hilarious. And I'm like, nobody wants to hear from the fool. At least that's what my daddy said. So I don't want to get up and, I don't want to just get up and just tell people stories and then not bring an impact in their lives. So I'm going to put this here because I feel like I don't want to lose the mic. So what I wanted to start off by is telling you a story. I wanted to tell you a story, a joke, to lighten up the room. So if you've heard this joke, still laugh. If you haven't, you'll enjoy it. So there was a DEA agent, and he goes to this big rancher's house. And he knocks on the door and he says, hey, I need to search this entire property because I need to find out if you are selling or growing illegal drugs on this property. And the rancher said, yeah, you can do that. You can do that. But you can go everywhere on this ranch, but over in that corner. And the DA looked and, he perked up and he pulled out his badge and he said, you know what? You know what this badge tells me? This badge tells you that I can go anywhere I want to on this ranch. It gives me the badge of honor to do what I want to do. So the rancher backed up. He apologized and he said, I'm sorry. Do as you please. So the DEA walks out, he's searching. The rancher goes on to his duties and he's cleaning up and he's doing what he's supposed to do. And then he hears, whoa! Oh, help me, help me, help me, help me. And you look and you see the DEA agent, he's running, and it's a big bull behind him. And he's screaming. And just before the bull is getting ready to gore you, the rancher, he runs up to the fence and he yells out, your badge! Show him your badge! And so, the Bible scripture that I have for that is a foolish person, Proverbs 12:5 is a foolish person thinks he's doing right, but a wise person listens to advice. And what I used to find myself doing is I was in that same predicament. God was always giving me these obstacles that I was scared to fulfill because God's work can be hard and it can be tedious. And sometimes I was like, God, I don't want to. I know you're looking for a user, but I don't want to be used. I know you're looking for somebody to fight these battles, but I don't think I can fight these battles. I don't think I'm strong enough. And so God was like, okay, well, you can either do it voluntarily or involuntarily, right? So I ended up doing it involuntarily. So what I found myself doing is a lot of times while God was writing, I was continuously snatching the pen. I was just continuously snatching the pen. And so it was this one time that I remember, one of my breakthroughs in my life, because I've had many breakthroughs. And like I was telling the ladies, I could be here 3 hours telling you about the breakthroughs that God has taken me through. But this was one that really impacted my life. So it was 2014, and I didn't mention also, I'm a retired IRS agent. Hold your pocketbooks in your bag. I don't want to know your business. I always tell people, don't meet me at the door. I don't want to know. But I'm a retired IRS agent. So I entered the government in 2007. And what I was looking for was my good government job. I knew I'm an accountant. I knew what I wanted to do. And I had prayed for God to do all these amazing things in my career. And what I learned in the book of Matthew, that God says that you have to be very specific in your prayers. You have to be, you really have to talk to God. You just can't say, God, give me something, and He just give it to you. So what I had prayed was for God to give me this position as a revenue officer and a revenue agent for the Internal Revenue Service. And I'd gotten my MBA, I'd gone through school, and I'd done all these things. And so the position pops up. So I applied for the position in 14 locations. This was the first time I had ever done this. But my desire was to be here in Texas, so I applied for Farmers Branch, Fort Worth, and Dallas. Right? And I just knew that's what God was going to do. I was going to get my job in this area. Well, guess what? I got the job. But I got every offer in every state except Fort Worth, Dallas, and Farmers Branch. So I was like, well, definitely God. This is not what you had planned out. And so I said, I really wanted the job. I said, I prayed for the job, so now I have to make this hard decision because I also have a husband and I also have children, school-age children. So me and my husband, we talked about it, and my husband has always been supportive in every single thing I do. And so he said, if this is what you want to do, I will stay here, you will go there, and we'll work it out in between. Now this is when the enemy starts working. So I got really excited. I said, oh, you know, I'm telling everybody, even when I got my offer, when I said I decided that I was gonna go to Fort Smith, Arkansas, never had been there, but what we decided is I was gonna choose the closest location to home so it would be easy for us to travel back and forth, right? So I remember getting my offer and running to my manager and saying, I'm going to Fort Smith, Arkansas. I'm getting promotion. And she said, well, what are your family doing? Is your family gonna move? I said, no, my husband is gonna stay, he's gonna take care of my kids, and we're just gonna work it out, and if I like it, then he's gonna move the family to Bentonville, Arkansas. And she said, oh, the devil's gonna attack your marriage. You know the devil's gonna attack your marriage? Your husband, you'll be in Arkansas, and your husband will be sleeping with other women and doing other things. And I thought first, I was like, well, yeah, I don't gotta go to Arkansas for you to do that. I'm like, you can do that right here. And so she told me that, and I started allowing the mistrust that people have for themselves and that projection to get on me. So then I became sad and doubting what God had given me. So I went to my husband and said, I don't think I want to go. And he's like, what do you mean you don't want to go? And I was like, I just don't want to go. And he's like, well, what's wrong? And I never told him the reason why I didn't want to go. And so he came to me, he said, no, you're going. You're going. You've been talking about this job since you got with the organization, and now you have your opportunity. God doesn't always give you a second chance. So you better take it. So I said, okay, I'm gonna take it. So I drove down, got my U-Haul, me and my kids, we boo-hooed, and we were separated. Now when I tell you the enemy started going on attack, everything you could think of, everything was happening. I dealt with the most overt racism that I had ever dealt with in my life. I didn't even think that could exist. One day I was in the post office and the man said something and I looked at my watch to make sure it didn't say 1950. That's how bad it was. And I was constantly, I would hold it back from my husband because I knew the minute that I said anything was wrong, he was gonna say, you gotta come back home. So I was just battling after battle. Then, not only I have an aunt and 3 friends who are all battling stage 4 breast cancer. So not only am I dealing with my own pain, I'm dealing with others' pain. And so I remember one day I was sitting in the office, and the thing in the government is like, when you get a job, you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to be the person you don't want to be the pot stirrer. And I was a union steward as well. So I knew how management and everything worked, and I was on a probationary period and they were gonna get me out. So like I said, all these different things were starting to happen. So one day I got a call from one of my union friends in Dallas, and he said, and I'm always on 10. I am always on 10 in the office, I'm always vibrant. So he called me, he said, hey Q, how you doing? I said, fine. He said, fine. He said, you don't sound like yourself. And I'm like, oh no, I'm doing well. He said, are you in the office? I said, yeah, I'm in the office. He said, can you call me? Can you call me after work? I was like, okay. I didn't call him. So a couple of weeks later, and when I tell you the overt, my car got keyed, I got called racial slurs, everything. So one day my husband called, and I just started crying. I just started boo-hooing. He like, what's wrong with you? That's how, he's like, what's going on, what happened? And I'm like, I'm just, going through so much. I'm like, my manager, he's attacking me. I said, when I go out in the field, the clients are attacking me. I'm telling my manager and nobody's helping me. And I said, I don't know what to do. And my husband, what I told him, he's gonna say, you gotta come home. And I said, well, I'm praying, and God hasn't said anything. That's one thing about God. He showed know how to be quiet. I said, he's not saying nothing. And so because he's not saying nothing, I can't move. I can't move unless God tells me to move. Yes. And my husband's like, well, I don't know what God is talking about, but if you don't get this stuff together, God gonna have to deal with me, and I'm coming to get you. So I said, okay. So that my union member who called me back, he called me back about maybe a couple of months later, and he said, I need you to talk to me. What's going on? So I said, I want to tell you everything that's happening, but you can't tell nobody. don't tell nobody, I'm just gonna release this. So I'm telling him everything that happened. Every single thing that happened. And he just listened. I said, please, his name is Rucker. I said, please, Rucker, don't go back and say nothing. Please, I don't want no problems here. I just want to make it past my year. He said, okay. Well, he broke my trust. And that was God. He broke my trust. So he wrote a letter up to DC. So the next thing you know, I'm getting calls from different people. Now my manager, his phone is ringing because what he did is he found out my manager's vacation schedule. So he waited till my manager went on vacation. So when he went on vacation, he came back. You know, his light was, and I could almost see, I knew what he heard when he looked at me in the office and was just listening about all these things that were happening. And so he came in my office and he came to my desk and he said, why are you starting trouble? I knew when I told you today, and I forgot to tell you this, the first day he said, I always see the people. I get to interview my own people. And when I interview my own people, I pick the right people. And I knew I didn't have the right people when you got here. And I was like, wow. I was like, okay, all right. So in that moment, I could have done two things. I could have wished him to hell and everything that came behind it, or I'd do what Daniel did and pray 3 times a day. And I mean, this man was, I was like, Lord, you might have to come down here and show yourself before I get to pray to this man. But I did. Because what I realized is that even in his transgressions, even in his anger, even in his pain, everybody goes through something. And just like I was going through something, I didn't know what my manager was dealing with at home. I didn't know what he was going through. I didn't know if he was sick. I didn't know any of these things. But I prayed for him every single day, 3 times a day. I woke up one morning and my girlfriend Jamila, she's my praying friend, and she had been calling me and I wasn't telling her anything that was going on. But one morning about 5 a.m., I answered the phone and she just said, I said, hello? And she said, Father God, in the name of Jesus, I ask you right now in the Lord, in the name of Jesus, I plead the blood. And I was like, and I just was listening and I was just crying. And she said, you don't have to tell me nothing. I feel it. I feel it. I feel it. And so fast forward and going down, we have this mediation. Because now they're like, what are you going to do with this job? Because we got EEO involved, we got the NTU, National Treasury, we got everybody involved. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I told my husband, I said, you know what, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit and I'm going to hire me the best lawyer I can. And he going to make a name out of himself because of me. And they're going to have a dollar bill with my name. So I got down. So that's what I did. I started interviewing. I started telling little tales to my job, saying I was sick and I was flying here and there doing interviews. So I was out in Columbia, South Carolina, interviewing for PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is PwC. I was out interviewing. I was on my 3rd interview. So I had already been flying to Austin and everything, pretending like I was sick. But God just said it was okay. That's, pat me on the back for the lies. So I'm in South Carolina, and the individual who hired me, his name was Lee Jackson. He hired me as a revenue officer in Little Rock, Fort Smith. And when I get on the phone, he says, "Hey, I'm Lee Jackson. I'm the one who hired you, and I'm also the fact finder in your case." So I was, this time I was mad. I was angry. I don't want to talk to y'all. Y'all all in cahoots. I'm a union steward. I know what y'all do. I'm not telling you nothing. I'm here in South Carolina, and I'm getting ready to find me a better job, and y'all here for me after I get my good job. Right? And so he said, listen to me. I said, no, I don't want to talk about it. He said, well, can you just tell me some of the instances that occurred? And so I was telling them each and everything that happened. And I said, okay, I'm getting ready to go to my interview. Goodbye. Phone hangs up. Phone rings again. Well, we have this little number that the IRS has, and everybody who calls from that number has this number. So I saw it. So this time I got the phone call. It wasn't that number. So I picked it up, and the voice has changed, but it's still in Jackson. And he says, sister, listen to me. I hear your pain. I hear everything you're saying. But God told me that you're gonna be all right. And if you trust me, I'll make sure you're gonna be all right. And I said, no, the enemy is busy. The devil is busy. I said, devil is just working. Y'all just trying to run me crazy. And he said, no, sister, that's not what I'm trying to do. And I said, well, you have a good day. And I was crying. I was listening to it. I said, I hung up. So fast forward, we're in mediation. We got the deputy commissioner, we got the territory manager, and we got our manager. I got my manager. So we're going back and forth. Back and forth. They're saying it, all my allegations. And he's like, you're a liar, and you're this. And I said, we can agree to disagree. That's what I would say after every question. We agree to disagree. So we come to a point where somebody had stole my keys in the office. And the manager, they asked him, because when I got my keys stolen, I didn't think anybody had stolen them. I was just looking for them. So he called me in the office and he said, I've been in this office 28 years. Nobody started stealing stuff until y'all got here. Now it was 3 black employees. And I said, y'all, I didn't even say anybody did anything. I'm just looking for my keys. So the mediation said, did you tell her that? He said, I did, because I didn't think anyone in my office would. So the deputy commissioner comes off the mic and he says, now hold up now, let's go ahead, we need to go to caucus. And so the mediator was like, well, we're not finished. When do you want to go to caucus? He says, right now. So I'm like, oh Lord. What does this even mean? Like, what is it? I said, maybe now he think I'm lying. So I'm like, oh God, this is just, I just knew it. So I'm going back, I knew I should have said, and all these different things. So we were in caucus for like 2 hours. 2 hours. So I'm sitting there, the minister was like, I wish I could fly on the wall in that room. I don't know what's going on. So when we get the phone call back, and it says, it's not my manager anymore. It's the deputy commissioner. The mediator is not on anymore. My EEO representative is online. And the deputy commissioner, you could hear a whimper in his voice. He said, Miss Carter. I said, yes, sir. He said, I want to say I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything that you've been doing. And I didn't know that you had to endure so long. And I see that you had so many things listed out that you wanted, you needed from us to stay at this job. We're gonna give you every single thing on here. And I burst out in a big cry. And he said, why are you crying? I said, because all this time, I was giving so much credit to the enemy, I was discrediting God. Because God told me, I asked for Dallas. But God didn't tell me how I was gonna get to Dallas. He didn't tell me I was gonna get there. And what I found out is that office, they have been watching that office for 7 years, because so many employees were going in and out, and nobody was willing to speak up because you knew the consequences. But God says, when I give you an assignment, you take that assignment, and if you trust me, I'm gonna give you everything you need. So all this time I was praying for Dallas, a year and a half later, I was back in Dallas with the job that I desired, with the job that I had prayed for. But then, you always, like I said, God always liked to give you battles. He wasn't finished. I'm like, okay, God. So during that year, in 2015, when I was going through that, my aunt died of stage 4 breast cancer. My friend, Stacy, died of breast cancer. Her and my aunt 3 days apart. Later down the line, my friend Kanisha passed away of stage 4 breast cancer. So I'm celebrating, but I'm also mourning. So I'm like, what does this even mean? So the only friend I had at that time was Shamika. And she was also going through stage 4 breast cancer. And so she would always call me and she'd cry and she'd just tell me how much she wanted to be loved. So I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of you whimpering and crying and living in your misery. I'm gonna send you a beauty box. I'm gonna send you with all the favorite things that make me feel like a woman. So I sent her this box, and when she got the box, she called me. And she was just crying. She said, nobody has never did anything like this for me. I always just wanted to put a little lipstick on. I always just wanted these earrings, everything, because she had lost all her hair. And And I was like, okay, I'm glad I was able to make you feel beautiful, make you feel well. She's like, you know what you should do? You should send this to other breast cancer patients. And I was like, God ain't said that. God didn't give me that much work. And she said, you should think about it. And then Shamika passed away. Shamika passed away. And I didn't know what to do. And so I started thinking, every conversation that I had with my friends was always dealing with their self-esteem and with their beauty. And I said, well, I thought to myself, God said, if it's one woman who needs this, if it's two women, there's thousands. So I was looking around Dallas and I was doing my, research about, cancer foundations. I didn't even know, and I can honestly tell you, I didn't even really know much about nonprofit organizations at this time. And so I decided to create an event called GlamCon that started standing for Glamorous Conqueror. And so I tried, the enemy started getting involved in that, because people said, well, you have to have lots of money. And in order for you to have lots of money, you have to ask people, and they have to trust you, and you have to do all these different things. Well, one thing I knew is I was an IRS agent and officer, and I know how to ask. I know how to say, my name is ShantaQ, and this is a government, I know how to talk serious. And so I said, okay, so I started calling organizations. I said, why don't you start calling these different organizations? And I'd say, my name is ShantaQ. I need to talk to the deciding official here at this business, either your CFO or, whoever. And so they were like, who's this? I said, I'm ShantaQ. I'm with the Pink Peppermint Project. And so they would put them on the phone, and I would, start my spiel, and they'd be like, well, do you have a 501c3? And I'm like, no, I actually just got a name, that's it, I don't have any of that. So I ended up having my first event. And so when God gives you something, I start psyching myself out, and I'm like, I can't get any money. And people, there's this thing with, image. Like, you gotta sell these many tickets, and you have to have the room full, and there has to be a whole bunch of people. So that got in my head. I was like, well, I'm not selling enough tickets, and there's not enough women showing up to the event. And this event is not gonna be great because nobody's gonna be there. So I had tables at that event. I think I had about 25 vendors. We had makeup artists, everything you could think of. And I think we had about 10 women. We had about 10 women there. And I was like, and the first thing that went in my head is like, this is a failure. I got all these people I've wasted their time, and they come out, and I just have 10 women. And I had this friend named Miss Kitty. She's my good friend. Miss Kitty is, and some of you might know Miss Kitty. She's now 80 years old. I think she was about 75 years old. So when I got up to say my speech at the end, I said, I just want to apologize. I just want to apologize for, I know this was supposed to be a great event, and Miss Kitty stood up. She said, no. You won't do that. Do that again. Do that, run that back. Run that back. She said, because if God will give you one, He will give you many. And these women are here. These 10 women were in front of here, and they were in front of me, and they were smiling, and they were coming up into me and saying how much of an impact this had made and how beautiful they felt. And even still, I was still discouraged, because that's the enemy. Because when you're doing God's work, the enemy wants to distract you. They say destroy, devour, all those things. That's what the enemy was doing. So I said, one of my friends, she said, are you gonna even do this again next year? And I was like, well, I don't know. Then I had people calling, and I said, well, this time it was most of my money that I used. And you know how husbands are. Husbands like, I understand you got a giving heart, but my pockets ain't giving as much as you want to give. And so I started getting back on the phone again. And I started calling. And I called this one organization. And I had already told my board members that we're probably not going to do it because we don't have enough money. And I can't afford to do the event again. So I called the event, called this organization, another nonprofit organization. And as soon as they get on the phone, I'm talking. My name is ShantaQ, and I'm the CEO and the founder of this event. And she's like, slow down. Tell me about your event. Tell me why you started the event. Tell me your story. Tell me. So I'm telling her story, everything. She said, okay. She said, well, we do a similar event as well. And she said, and a lot of people are out here just doing events for the money, or, so they can profit themselves. And I was like, well, that's not why I'm doing it. Because I'm struggling, I don't have money. And she said, well, let me think about it. So I was like, okay. So I was sitting in my event, I was sitting on my computer, and I was typing up an email telling my board members that I wasn't gonna do the event that year. Wasn't gonna do the event. Phone rings exactly when I was signing my name and getting ready to send it. Stop me. I got on the phone. She says, this is Mr. Such and Such. I talked to you a few days ago about your event. We're gonna go ahead and give you a check for $10,000. God said, don't play with me anymore. God said, don't play with me anymore. If I said I was gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. If I said I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And I believed him. And Shante, how many people were at that event that year? We were sold out. We were sold out. Because if I give you one, I give you many. And that's how the Pink Peppermint Project was founded. Now you probably want to know, how did I become a comedian? Because God's a comedian. He's real funny because he'll give you a premise, he'll give you a setup, and then you get to the punchline, but you don't understand what's going on until you get to the punchline. Because you're looking like, God, okay, this is not funny. I'm not laughing. You said blessings are supposed to be good. I'm not feeling good about this. So all those women I was helping that were sick, I started facing my own health issues. But I'm still going. But I'm going at a pace where I'm not paying attention to what's going on. Now I'm focused. Now I'm just kind of just all over the place. Because I'm like, I gotta get this done, I gotta do this. And in some of my black folks can understand, they'll say, well, if you don't listen to God, God gonna sit you down. God is, every little sickness is related to, like, why you convince God don't want me doing nothing? He want me to sit down. But that's what happened. Because I was, I was just running and doing work and doing all the great things that I thought I was supposed to be doing, but I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't taking care of my emotional, mental, physical wellness. So next thing you know, I'm sitting at my computer one day for 2 weeks. Well, let's go here, 2 weeks. I'm just tired and feeling nauseous and all these different things. And I'm aware that these things are going on. And my husband was aware that these things were going on. We had been in and out of the hospital trying to figure out what was going on with ShantaQ, and nobody could tell her other than she's working too much. As soon as you say IRS, you don't have to say anything else. And I'm like, it's not me that's worried, it's the people. I go into my job smiling. It's the people that cry when I leave, True story. It's not stressing me out any. And so I'm sitting at the computer one day, and my husband's like, do you want to go to the hospital? And I said, no. I'm like, if I start feeling bad, I'll go. My husband is my soul. Well, he works for the FAA, and he was one man show. So he said, if I go to work, I'm not gonna be able to leave. And I'm like, well, if I feel bad, I'll go to the hospital. I have my daughter. You'll have Naira take me, because she was there at home for college. So he drove on to work, and then he texted me. Well, he called me and I didn't answer. I was talking on the phone, and he texted me. He said, hey, are you feeling good? And I said, I'm feeling okay, but if I don't feel well, if I don't feel better, I'll go to the hospital, or I'll go take a nap. Well, he immediately called my daughter and said, take your mom to the hospital. Go ahead and take her to the hospital. So my daughter, we ain't communicating. So I don't know if he's talking to her, she don't know he's talking to me. So she comes downstairs with her purse thinking I already know that I'm getting ready to go to the hospital. She says, Mom, you ready to go? And I turned around and said, ready to go where? And a sharp pain went down my jaw, down my shoulder. And I was like, well, I don't know what that is. I ain't never felt that before. Let's go ahead and go to the emergency room. I ended up being there 6 more days because I had a mild heart attack. 6 months later, I was at my good government job, had my red suit on, I was looking pretty. The cardiologist had just released me the day before and said I could go back to my full activity, I could go back in the field, and I was excited because I was gonna be auditing taxpayers again. I was excited. That was my job. I was gonna be auditing taxpayers, and I was just really excited. My husband decided that he wasn't going. He said, because I normally work from home. He's like, you gonna go in the office? See, we got a town hall meeting. He's like, well, that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and go downtown while you're at work. And I'm like, okay, so I go downtown. Like I said, I had my red suit on. Don't really think I wanted to be there, because what happened next was me and my manager, we're laughing. We're joking and we're laughing and we're talking about this ridiculous town hall meeting that's just a waste of time and government money that we don't need to be at. But we're gonna go. And we're just laughing, and I'm like, I'm so excited because he saw me deteriorating. He saw me, they had to make all kind of adjustments for me because I was having a hard time. So I'm laughing and I'm and it stops, he says. He says the laughter stopped. And what he thought was I was just, fixing, and I had sat down at my desk and got on to work. But next thing he heard was, help, help. ShantaQ is on the floor. She's on the ground. I had collapsed. And they had to call my husband and tell him that I was unconscious and had collapsed at work. And that's why I always tell people I didn't really want to be at work that day. I didn't really want to be at work. God always gives you a way out. And from that time, that's when I got pulled up out of the pales. Because when God wants you to listen, he's gonna make you listen. He's gonna make you listen. He will bring you down. A lot of people say, God won't give you more than you can bear. I ain't found that scripture. I haven't. He says tempt, but not more than you can bear. Because I feel like if God didn't give you more than you could bear, what would you need him for? What would I need God for if he wouldn't give me more than he could bear? I could bear. How would I get on my knees and cry out and say, God, I really need you in this moment. I'm confused and I've been trying to do it on my own and I can't do it no more. I'm tired of snatching the pen out of your hand and tell me what I need to do. And he said, just be still. Just be still. Just be still. And so I was still. I had to be, because I was in physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy. I had no choice. And it was very tumultuous. It was probably one of the hardest things I had to go through in my life. 7 days a week, going in and out of speech therapy, and realizing that I would never be able to do my job the way that I was going to do it, and had been doing it. This career that I wanted so bad. What's going on? What am I doing wrong? God said, be still. Be still. So then I started going through womanly issues. Musty. Y'all ever get musty? Y'all know what musty is? Black folks know what musty is. It means when you stink. When you kind of feel unfresh. When you feel unfresh. I started feeling that way. And I couldn't find a way to tackle it. So here goes another purpose. I couldn't find anything in the stores that worked for me. So now I have this consumer goods company called Girl Be Natural that's serving women who are sick like me because I couldn't find anything that works for me. But still, God said that's not enough. That's not enough, because you still are not operating in your gift. You're doing everything, you're doing stuff, but you still haven't got the message. Because your talents show up when you're a kid. You just have to have the right people around you to nurture them. So I asked ShantaQ, you need to get on, you need to tell people these stories. You should be doing this and you should be doing that. So one day, my daughter comes to me and she says, Mom, can you do a TikTok with me? Anytime you get your children's attention and you can get them out of the room and doing more than being on the computer and being on their phone all day, you gotta get up. So I was like, sure, I'll do a TikTok with you. So I started doing the TikTok and I started dancing. And I started, looking at what everybody else was doing on there. You got dancing, you got cooking, you got doctors, you got everything. But I was just doing all kinds of stuff. So I started making videos. I started lip singing, then I started cooking. She's laughing at me. I was just doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, none of this is, I like this stuff, but it's not really fulfilling. So one day I was coming back from therapy. And when I tell you, I looked a hot mess, And I'm someone who always is glammed up, looking great. Even my kids was like, what is going on with you? Like, is this something we should know? And I'm like, I'm just stressed out. I'm just depressed. I'm not happy. I'm not able to work anymore. I'm not able to do all these things that I wanted to do. None of it. So I said, I'm gonna get on here and I'm gonna tell a story. And this story is gonna exemplify what I'm going through right now. So I got on TikTok and I went to the video. And I got a call, I said, from my daughter's school. Because they told me that there was a strange man picking her up every day. Strange man, it wasn't my husband, wasn't her grandfather, was nobody we knew that was picking her up. Then I told him how they described this man to me. They said he was tall and stubby, hair was fragile, looked like he was out of shape and out of breath. And I was like, who could that be? So I said, I don't believe y'all. Y'all not gonna lie on my daughter. Send me a picture right now. Send me a picture right now and prove to me that somebody's picking up my daughter. So they did. And I got the picture and I started weeping and I started crying because it was me without my wig on. And that video got over 12 million views. That video brought so much laughter and joy to people saying that they were in a bad mood or I had taken them to a place and brought them out of it. And they started asking for more. And so I started going back and forth and trying to still figure out what I was going to do. And God finally got me to my calling. And every video, even when I was scared, every video, I'm like, God, stop making these videos do well. Stop making them do great, because I feel pressure to do more. And I kept doing more. And then I got the kids engaged. So then the kids said, I wish you were my mom. I wish you were my auntie. I wish I lived in your house. Can you tell me how I deal with, can you tell me how I can have a better relationship with my mom? Can you tell me these different things? And then women, I talk about my health and being transparent and how sometimes I don't feel good, and sometimes I don't like my husband, and sometimes I don't like my kids, and what that $1.9 billion would do for me right now if I just decided to pick up and leave. But it's the realness, because I talk about the things that we don't want to talk about, the things that bother us, the things that we're dealing with. And I realized how good God is. And I'm going to leave you with this scripture. If I can get to it, because I got ADD. It's Psalms. I think I'm not going to find it. I thought I wrote it down here. But it's Psalms. It's Psalms 12:15. And basically it says, I will give you the battles and you will be vindicated at the end. And now I am touring. I'll go to LA. I'm going to New York this week. I have been approached by the best of the best. Steve Harvey. All these people that I've always looked up on TV. And some of the older people might know Michael Collier. I did his show. And so all these things that is keeping me growing and blossoming, and as long as I keep doing what God asked me to do, I'm growing. And so now I still talk about health and wellness. I'm a national spokesperson for Novartis. And now they say, we don't want you to tell your story like you used to tell it. Put some jokes in there. So I tell them how I knew I was old, how old I was when I used to wake up injured. You ever gone to bed and woke up injured? That's how you know you're old. God bless y'all. I love y'all, and y'all have a wonderful evening.